So, John, you seem to be evolving as a man, and this is my outside observation, but as a man and an artist, you grew up, and you've said in our last interview, you wanted to be a country music star, you wanted to write a lot of songs, you wanted to chart, sell a lot of records, did all that. But you seem to be, I don't know, on some kind of new mission. Am I imagining that? And if I'm not, what is it?
No, you're not imagining it. A few years ago, I started to contemplate the difference between success and significance. And they are different. Sometimes they intersect, where something significant or something successful, they interact. But I spent 3 decades of my adult life in self-service, competing in the music industry to be successful. And so to me, success in the music industry, I had really high bars. I had set, like, I want to be Songwriter of the Year, for instance, in Nashville. That's something that's like the coveted award, because there's thousands of songwriters in Nashville. And I was Songwriter of the Year for 3 years in a row. Wanted to sell millions of records. Well, all told, we sold close to 15 million records. Wanted to write hit songs for other people too. And I've had, I don't know how many, I don't even know the number of how many top 10 songs I've written. It's a lot. So
can I just ask, how were those victories? Were they as great as you thought they'd be?
At the time, yeah, because it was that's my American dream. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't go to college. I had a 4-year ride to a school called Belmont University in Nashville on a vocal scholarship, and my plan was to go there and go to college. And I'm in Nashville, and I'll try to get a record deal, and go to college. If I don't get a record deal, well, went to college and I got a degree. Maybe I go do something. I don't know. But instead of going to college, I went out on the road with some guys I literally barely knew from Texas who were older than me. I was 18, going on 19. And instead of going to college, I went out and played about 200 nights a year in a van pulling a trailer all over the U.S., playing Holiday Inn lounges and county rodeos and off-brand casinos and basically anybody that would hire us, because I wanted to be on the radio, I wanted to play the Grand Ole Opry, and I wanted to write #1 songs. And I couldn't understand how college was going to make that happen.
Fair.
It can't.
Yeah.
I mean, it just can't. So I said, I'm going to just go do it. And so that band became a band called Lone Star, which we got a record deal a couple of years after we started, sold 4 or 5 million records with them, wrote my first #1s with them. So in those moments where you gambled to that level and then you win, and then everybody loves it, it is just a constant high five. I mean, it's just a constant celebration, because that is so hard to do.
Yes.
It's like an Olympian winning a gold medal. That's what it's like to write a #1 song, or to step out on a stage and there's 30,000 people that know the words to your music and you've never met any of them. And it's that way all over the U.S. You can imagine that feeling, especially in your 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no better physical feeling I don't think you can have than it's just massive adrenaline. And so throughout the course of the next years, here comes Big and Rich, which is, my singing partner, Big Kenny. And we sold millions of records, and we have 20, 30,000 people a night. And here's a whole nother rack of hit songs coming. And now I'm finding people, bartenders who I hear sing one night. And I talk to this girl and I go, "You're one of the best singers I've ever heard. We got to get you in the studio. We got to write some songs." And she goes, "All right." And so we do. She gets a record deal. Her name's Gretchen Wilson, and Gretchen Wilson sold about 13 million records.
Damn.
You following this trend?
Yeah.
So I mean, just home run after home run, grand slam, which puts a lot of plaques on your wall. You make a lot of money doing that, get a lot of praise, a lot of applause, and that's success. That is success. And in that world, that's it. That is success. But is it significant? Meaning, what did it do other than make me feel great and accomplish things that were on my personal list? Nothing. And then I thought about, well, when I die and I go stand in front of the boss, is he going to pat me on the back and say, "Good job on all those hit songs, man. You were great. Good job. You played 4,000 concerts, man. We're all so happy for you." You think he really cares about that?
Probably not.
He doesn't. The answer is he does not
How'd
care.
that come to you?
Seeing the things that go on in our country, seeing things that go on in our culture, seeing things that happen to people who cannot defend themselves, whether it be kids, whether it be, poor people, whoever, that just get steamrolled every single day, taken advantage of, targeted, used, abused. And I thought, I'm wasting my heartbeats right now because I am capable of taking a simple idea, a simple line, and turning it into a piece of music that can penetrate tens of millions of people. And I can make them cry. I can make them jump up and down and scream and holler and party. I can make them think. I can make them not think. I can do all kinds of music is it's the ultimate X factor. Like, you can't touch it. Music seeps in between the cracks and crevices of a person's body, mind, and soul. Like, everybody's got defenses up. Everybody.
Yes.
You do, I do. Music goes right through it. It just gets through it.
How?
I don't know. Music it's like magic. Psalms, the entire book of Psalms means songs, basically, that David wrote. And King David was a musician and a songwriter. And so there was melodies to all those Psalms. Someday I can't wait to hear him sing. I wonder what melody he put to that. Like, I've had that thought before. But he probably put it to music because he knew what I know, which is you can give a speech or you can make a statement to somebody and you can say the exact same thing with a melody wrapped around it and have two completely different outcomes. One thing music does is once it goes into you, it stays there.
Yes.
You'll forget a speech. You'll forget this podcast down the road. You'll forget about it.
Like an Eddie Rabbit tune from 1978 never goes away.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. The earworm factor,
Yes.
It goes deep down into your subconscious. I don't know where it goes. I have thousands of them in my head, but it goes deep down in there. And I just decided that I was disappointing the man, disappointing the Lord, that he gave me this ability and then gave me a massive platform of people. Tens of millions of people know my music. So I already have their attention. So what am I gonna feed them next? What am I gonna give them? Am I gonna give them another party song? Am I give them another love song? To what end? Like, what does that accomplish? Nothing. It might give me another plaque on the wall. And I need another plaque on the wall like I need a hole in the head. I walk past those plaques and go, like today I do. Or I'll see pictures of me back in the day winning an award or whatever, and I'll remember how I felt back then. And it seems so insignificant to me now. Like, shallow, insignificant. Like, what does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything to me now. So success versus significance. How do I be significant with my music and with my talent? It's writing songs. Revelation was a great example. You were the first guy to put a spotlight on that song. I flew up and saw you. We did a podcast on that song. It resulted in millions and tens of millions, actually, of views and consumption on that song. And when I go to a Big and Rich concert now, they don't generally walk up and say, "Man, I'm a big fan of your music." If they have enough guts to walk up to me and say something, which I'm always glad when they do, they say, "That song Revelation," he said, pulled the Bible off the shelf for the first time in 20 years after I heard that song. Made the hair on my arm stand up. I had 3 sorority girls down in Fort Worth, Texas. We had a concert down there, like 19, 20-year-old girls come walking up to me. And I'm like, first of all, I'm glad to still have people 19 and 20 that like my music. Yay, good for me. But they came up and they said, "Mr. Rich, we heard your song Revelation, and our sorority started a Bible study on 2 Thessalonians, Matthew 24, Revelation, and Daniel. All the things that you mentioned in your Tucker interview. And we've done a month-long deep dive on that. And they said, everything you said in that interview is correct." Like, that's what it says. But we didn't hear that in church. But that, you were right. That's what it said. I said, that's unbelievable. I said, well, congratulations. Keep going, So it makes me think, I wonder how many times that has happened and I'll never know about it because that song was significant. It wasn't about success. I don't even have a record deal. I really can't make money on my songs anymore. There's no money to really be made on music. Everybody streams everything. It's not about any money. And because I'm not a part of the industry, nobody's going to call me up and say, congratulations, here's a big number one.
What do you mean you're not part of the industry?
I mean, I don't have a contract with anybody in the industry. I regularly attack the industry. I call them out for how they treat artists, and we're not friends.
We're excited to announce a new partner of our show, Poncho Outdoors. Poncho specializes in men's shirts designed for the great outdoors. Their flannels are excellent. They're not bulky or stiff, and they are durable. They're built for comfort. These medium weight, stretchy, shockingly soft shirts are the go-to when temperatures drop. Poncho shirts are perfect for everything you do outside in the fall. Fishing, hunting, golfing, enjoying the weather. Poncho is the way to go. Our producers, I'm looking at one, wearing one right now. Each shirt is comfortable, durable, versatile for whatever happens. Slim, regular, tall fits because people come in all shapes and sizes. Gear up for fall with Poncho. Every piece is built for comfort. PonchoOutdoors.com/Tucker. Enter your email for $10 off your first order. That's Poncho, Poncho, Outdoors.com/Tucker for $10 off and free shipping. And when they ask, how'd you hear about Poncho? Let them know the Tucker Carlson Show sent you with maximum enthusiasm.
Does it matter?
Not to me, it doesn't. I don't want them to think well of me.
What does your agent say?
What can they say?
Yeah.
What does your agent say, Tucker?
I don't have one. I'm sure he'd be appalled.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
no, they look at it and go, at this point, they just go, keep swinging the bat. I mean, because it turns up opportunities that I never thought possible. Like I'll get a call and they'll say, hey, we want you to come speak for an hour and bring your guitar. And we want you to play Revelation and Earth to God. Those are the two songs we want to hear you play. Okay? Not the big country hits. And I'll walk into these massive places and be able to say things to these crowds that they're not going to hear in church. They're not going to read it on social media. And then there's the music factor also that comes in, which is what I love to do. And that did not exist before I started focusing more on being significant instead of successful.
Did you play gospel in public before this turn?
No.
You grew up with it, obviously.
I grew up with it. My dad's a preacher, sang and played in church. But no, I mean, gospel music's never been a part of my set because when Big and Rich hit the stage, it's Come Into Your City and Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, and it's all these crazy songs, And that's what they come to hear, and that's what we give them. But on my own, outside of Big and Rich, I have my own trajectory, my own homework assignment from him. And when he lays something on me to say in my music, I'm going to say it. I'm going to write it at the top of my ability. I'm going to sing it at the top of my ability, produce a video as well as I can possibly do. And then I'm just going to stick it out there. And if it's significant, it will grow its legs and it will run faster than anything I could ever do in the music industry. Revelation's the perfect example.
Yeah, I mean, that was not the kind of song your manager would tell you to write.
No.
How do you communicate with God?
We're told in the Bible to pray without ceasing. I mean, continually pray. It doesn't mean continually be down on your knees praying, but it means that your headspace, and we're human, so we're not very good at this, but you're supposed to attempt to stay in a headspace where it's an open channel. So you're an old school guy like me. You know the old CB radios
very well
in your truck.
Yeah.
And if you just put it on channel 19 and turn the volume all the way up and just start driving, and you're not talking to anybody, you're just driving, every now and then you'll hear a trucker or a conversation start happening coming through that CB, and you're listening to it. It's like entertainment. I wonder where they are, wonder what they're talking about. I view praying without ceasing like your mind is like a CB radio that you just turn it all the way on and just leave it there. That way, if he wants to tell you something, the channel is open and the volume's all the way up and you can't miss it. Like he'll tell you something, make you feel something, put a thought in your head and you don't miss it. Because that's tough to do in life because we're running 1,000,000 miles an hour and everybody's coming at us from every direction all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of distraction.
It's just pop, pop, pop. It's like wasps. It's like hornets in your face.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change because that's the way things are. But if you can manage to discipline yourself to keep that channel open, you will hear things. You will learn things. He'll direct you to do things. He'll put it in your mind to call a particular person, or you'll meet somebody that you would not have met had you not gone to that place that for some weird reason you just felt compelled to go to this event or this little meeting or whatever. And you wind up meeting somebody that can really change your life in a dramatic way, and you can't believe you didn't know him your whole life. I'm sure that's happened to you.
It has.
So leaving that channel open, praying without ceasing is a huge thing. You know?
So listen, obey, but it begins with prayer. How do you pray?
So most Christians think that because they are a Christian, that all of God's guarantees and blessings and promises are delivered to them by default. Now, it is their inheritance by default because they are a child of God. They have claim to the inheritance of what he's promised us. However, there's only one way you actually get what it is you want. Number one, you have to belong to him for real. You can't be a cultural Christian. You can't say, well, I go to church every Sunday. I'm a Christian. That does not count. It doesn't mean it's bad to go to church. It means you have to look at yourself as a piece of property. It tells us in the New Testament, and Paul wrote, which I know you love Paul, we're supposed to be bond servants to Christ, bond slaves, like a mule or a cow or a tractor or whatever. Like, we don't have our own will. We don't have our own ambition. We don't have anything. We are worthless. But we turn ourselves over to him and he makes you valuable. And then now he can do things with you because your entire ego and everything has been sacrificed, put to the side, and he can do something with you at that point. So that's number one. You got to be an actual real Christian. Number two, you have to pray for what you want specifically for that. So let's say you want discernment. You can't make sense of what's going on. You don't know if that's a good guy or a bad guy. Can't make up your mind. I don't know what I'm looking at. And you want discernment. God is not just going to look down and go, John needs discernment right now. He can't figure out what's going on. Boom, John's got discernment. That's not how it works. I have to ask him to give me discernment. I have to say, you promised me that you will give me discernment. I'm asking you to now give it to me. That's step two. And then step three is he will give you what you're asking for if it serves his will. And that's totally up to him. So for instance, let's say I'm in a really bad state of mind and I need peace. Like I don't have peace. I'm unsettled. And I belong to Jesus. I ask him to give me peace. Now he's got to give me peace if it serves his will. Well, if he doesn't give me peace, which has happened, I go, why are you not giving me that? Because I don't feel peaceful. Sometimes he wants you to be in this mode. He wants you to be in that mode because he's got something that's going to require that element of you to accomplish whatever it is he's trying to
What's
get done.
What's that mode?
That's fight mode. That's offense. That's offense mode. That is, there's the target, hit the target. That's what that is. It could be a subject. It could be a situation that's going on, whatever it is. It's offense. Christians, in large part, remain on defense all the time. They don't want to engage. And I guess they forget about the story of Jesus walking into the temple.
Yeah.
And it was completely overrun by hypocrites and people doing business and changing money. And I mean, just turned it into a bank, basically. Jesus walked in there and sees this going on. And if Jesus was a modern day cultural Christian, you know what he would have done? Turned around and walked out. Because he just said, well, that place has gone straight to hell, right?
Yeah,
okay, I don't want to deal with that. That's what he would have done, but that's not what he did. He walked on in there. It says he fashioned a whip with rope. He braided a whip together, called them sons of vipers, which I would guess in Hebrew was probably cuss words back in the day.
It sounds like
Jesus probably ripped a few cuss words on these guys and then flipped the tables over and started whipping them and ran them out of the temple. That's pretty serious offense, don't you think?
Yeah, I'd say.
And he's the Son of God, and he's the example that we are supposed to live up to. That doesn't mean you stay in that mode all the time, but there are situations that arise where Christians have got to put their dukes up, and you don't hunt us. We're coming for you now. No, you run. We're not running. You run. That's what's missing in American Christianity.
Why, though?
There's been a lot of noise in the news recently, but it doesn't matter if you can't hear it. There's no shame in that. It happens to a lot of people every year, millions. You get deaf as you get older, especially if you shot without earplugs as a kid. But our friends at Audient can help you. Hearing loss is more widespread than most people realize. Over 460 million people worldwide live with disabling hearing loss. 80% of them don't wear hearing aids. And the reason is simple. They're super expensive. Thousands of dollars, prescriptions, medical visits. And so most people don't want to deal with it or they can't afford it. Audient offers FDA-compliant hearing aids for as low as $98. No prescription needed, no doctor visit needed. Available to over 10,000 retailers nationwide, including Walmart, Walgreens. Over 1.5 million Americans already use the product from Audient. It has changed their lives. No more squinting and struggling to hear as you hear stories from people you love. In a crowded room, you can't hear anything, hard to eat at restaurants. This helps you reconnect. Visit heartucker.com, H-E-A-R, tucker.com, or you're going to have to speak louder, or you can call 1-800-453-2916, 800-453-2916 to learn more about how Audient can help you or someone you love hear better. Audient is actually launching their biggest sale of the year starting today, so it's perfect timing. Essential healthcare, the ability to hear, accessible. This is what we should have had already. Visit heartucker.com to learn more.
I mean,
Why is it missing?
yes. Like, how did we get that? Wasn't always true.
Probably because Christians in America especially have not experienced actual persecution ever. Not actual persecution. Not like what they go through in North Korea, Syria, China, Uganda, all these other places where they literally get cut into bits in the streets and they kill their families and burn their houses down, and we all know what happens. They're Christians too, all right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, we haven't gone through anything like that in America, and I think Christians have been. I think the Joel Osteens of the world have created in their ministries this lukewarm, pablum baby food that they serve up to their congregations week in and week out. They grow up eating baby food. They have no muscle. They have no backbone. They have no constitution. They have no fight in them whatsoever. None. Because they don't understand the Bible well enough and have digested it and given themselves over to it, because their preacher never talks about it. He won't bring it up. And why not? Because it's uncomfortable to hear those things. Christians don't want to hear that they will be persecuted at some point if they do it correctly. Jesus said, basically, if they hate you, just remember they hated me first. I mean, they crucified me. What are they going to do to you? Get ready. If you're the real McCoy, get ready. And Christians don't want to hear that. That doesn't keep the church full. That doesn't keep the offering plates full. That doesn't keep the donations and the estate plans that go to these churches. That doesn't keep that going. They want the easy message because it allows them in their mind a way to not have to engage the devil and his people and his armies. And so what you have is a whole rack of weak Christians that are constantly being attacked by a totally dedicated force of wickedness, totally dedicated.
What do you mean dedicated?
I mean, they pray to their daddy for real. I mean, they are dedicated. They dedicate their lives to him, and they do what he says, and they look for ways to serve him.
What signs do you see of that?
Well, watch what's going on in the world. Does it seem like sane people would do a lot of the stuff that we see going on these days? No, right. So they are being controlled and carrying out the will of their father, the father of lies. And we're supposed to carry out the will of our Father who created their father, and that's not even a fair fight. So the Christians are standing on the side of an insurmountable, undefeatable God, the Lord, who could wipe out the universe with a blink. That's who we serve. Yet we stand out here and run and hide and go, please don't come to my house. Please don't attack me, Mr. Bad Guy, Mr. Wicked Man, Mr. You belong to the devil. Oh, no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. And because of that attitude, our country is completely compromised at this point because of weak Christians.
What are the signs that someone is dedicated to dark forces? That not just mistaken, misguided. Like who is actually an agent of evil? How do you know that?
That their every thought and action is completely counter to what God created them to be. Completely counter. That they are.
So they're at war with God's creation, with nature.
That's correct. Why do you think they come after kids? I mean, in the New Testament, it says that children have angels that report back to God on behalf of the kids. Like they have their own protection. And probably the most hardcore thing Jesus ever said was, you'd be better off to have a millstone tied around your neck and cast into the sea than to ever cause one of these little ones to stumble. Not to rape them, not to murder them, not to traffic them, not to slap them around, to cause them to stumble, meaning to mess with them at all, to mess with their innocence in any way, shape, or form. You'd be better off dead than for that to happen. The Son of God said that. The guy who we follow, the guy who we're supposed to emulate and try to live up to his example, that was part of what he said. A lot of Christians are also under this just total fabrication. God loves everybody. I've heard that so many times. Well, God loves everybody. It does not say that anywhere in the Bible that God loves everybody. Matter of fact, when you go to Proverbs 6, it says, these things doth the Lord, all caps, hate. Use the word hate. And the first thing it lists is those whose feet are swift to shed innocent blood. He hates them. And then you've got the issue of, well, but the Bible says we're supposed to pray for our enemies. And it does say that.
Oh, yeah.
It says pray for your enemies, not pray for God's enemies. Two different enemies. You don't pray for pedophiles, for instance. Those are God's enemies. Their feet are swift to shed innocent blood. He's who we talked about in the New Testament. You don't pray for those people. You go to war against those people. You come straight at them. You do what Jesus would do to them. You see the difference? This is not preached in churches. Maybe there's a few that preachers actually talk like this, but Americans want a Jesus made in their image, not actually who he actually was, because who he actually was and is and what he told us to do are very difficult things that put you in compromised positions every single day if you do what he actually told you to do. And most people are not willing to do that.
Because it's just counter to what the world demands.
I mean, they're going to get attacked. They're going to get persecuted. They're going to all kinds of things is going to happen.
Why you said people who destroy innocence?
People whose feet are swift to shed innocent blood doth the Lord hate.
Why the impulse to shed innocent blood? Like, what is that?
I think that the wicked people of this earth believe that they can inflict the most pain on the Father and the Son by hurting the that they love the most, which is the innocent child.
Yes.
And so in their minds, that's how we hurt him the most. That's how we get the most tears out of his face. That's how we get him to weep. That's how we torture him and bring anguish to God, is by hurting the kids, because we know that's who he loves the most, because we know what he said about it. He said we'd be better off dead than to do that. That's how we felt about it. So that's who we're going to go after. How demented is that? How purposefully wicked is that tactic? Think about that.
Yeah, I mean, the explanation that we get is that it's like some kind of clinical disorder. Most people are not, have no desire to do that. The average person has no desire to hurt a child, be sexual in any way.
But demons do.
Well, that's it. But then we're told, well, the psychological explanation, well, it really isn't one, but they're like disordered. Mm-hmm. But you're saying it's a kind of ritual.
I'm saying that they're possessed by spirits that have waged war against God since day one, and that the way that they can cause him the most pain is by inhabiting human beings and turning and twisting them into such a knot that they are that much of a degenerate now, that much of a reprobate now, that they will carry out that mission. That's what I'm saying. Just like on the other side, when you see a real Christian come straight at you with something, like Charlie Kirk, for instance, okay, that's not normal either. No. That's outside the capacity of a human being to do what he was doing. That nobody's built for that. That requires being possessed. Christians are possessed by the Holy Spirit. We are possessed by that. And so if you're possessed by that, it's no longer Tucker making a move or John Rich making a move or whatever. When you really walk in on something and you claim the Holy Spirit and you claim what you're promised, the armor of God, for instance, which there's only one offensive weapon in the armor of God. Everything is defensive. Oh, by the way, nothing guards your back. There's nothing in the armor of God that goes on the back. It's all in the front. It's the helmet, it's the shield, it's the girding of the legs, it's the shoes, it's all that. But the offensive weapon is the sword. And it says that the sword is the word of God. That's the word, that's the scripture. And that it's sharper than any two-edged sword, dividing even between the spirit and the soul and the joints and the bones, and that it divides. And that's another misconception that a lot of Christians have, is that Jesus wants everybody to get along. He did not say that. Jesus said, I came to not to bring peace, but to bring a sword, to divide mother against father, father against son, brother against brother. Because when the truth really drops, there is no middle anymore. It's a clean cut, and it's this and that is it. That is it. This is all in there, but Christians just can't seem to get their head wrapped around it to a large degree, and I believe that stems from the churches in general just refuse to go there. And so if you're a Christian watching this interview, and you're starting to get keyed up about what I'm saying, good, I'm glad you're getting keyed up. Why don't you pick up the Bible and read exactly what it says without your preacher, without your Bible group, without anybody, and just read what it says.
That's good advice right there.
Read it.
It's good advice.
Yes.
Have it speak to you directly and just see what it says.
Read what it says and go, wow, okay. Read the examples that are laid out by the people God thought the most of. Go read about Stephen, who was stoned to death in the New Testament, as Paul, who was then Saul, is holding the coats of the men who were stoning Stephen to death. And not long after that, Paul had his Road to Damascus event, and then he went on, and all these churches popped up, and he wrote half the New Testament. Nobody wants to get stoned to death. Nobody wants to get shot in the throat with a 30-06. Do they? No, we do not want that as human beings. We do not want that. But it tells us to go forward, not backward, forward. We don't retreat from the devil. He is so weak, and his people are so weak in the face of who God really is and who God's real people are. He has no chance at all to succeed. The only way he succeeds is that those people won't engage. It's a one-way fight. And I'm just not going to be a part of that.
Christmas season is here, and although it's a bit of a cliche, it really is important to keep Christ in Christmas. Should we focus on cookies and presents or on the reason we're doing this, which is Jesus? Obviously, the point is Jesus. That's the whole point. That's the only point. And all of the decency and good cheer of this holiday comes from Jesus. The Hallow App's Pray 25 Challenge reminds us of that. It features Chris Pratt, Gwen Stefani, our friend Jonathan Rumi, and many others. This 25-day challenge guides you through Advent and helps you keep your focus on the true reason for the season, Jesus. Experience the nativity story where Jesus brought peace and calm to a world in chaos. And that's exactly what we need right now is peace and calm and still. And Jesus is the only one who brings it, period. Hallow is thousands of prayers and meditations and music to help you connect with God all through Christmas and after, including several Christmas original songs and albums. There's a whole world on Hallow. It's like unbelievable. It's changed our family's life. Check it out. You will not regret it. Get 3 months for free at hallowed.com/Tucker. Experience greater peace and stillness this Christmas.
In the New Testament, I think all the disciples, or certainly the majority, or the ones whose fates we know, none of them wound up on Corfu in retirement.
No.
They all got killed.
They all got killed or exiled or imprisoned for life or, yeah.
So what does that tell us? I mean, you just said that God always wins, but it sounds like his arms and legs, the people who are representing him.
Well, what God considers a win and what we consider a win might be two different things. Right?
Yeah.
What God considers a win is that people convert and repent and give their lives to him. That's a win. That's the real win. That's the win. That's the biggest win. It says the Lord wishes that no one go to hell. No one. He doesn't want anybody to be separated from him. It's his creation. He wishes that no one has that fate, but he gives you free will. You're not a robot. You can pick whichever side you want to go. You can follow the route you're going to follow, and you're going to wind up in eternity with whoever it is you followed. It's as simple as that. You're going to live in your daddy's house, whoever that is.
Where do you think the country's going?
Well, there are some positive signs. For instance, my two sons, they're 14 and almost 16, and there is a resurgence of interest and true passion about learning who God is. What does God want me to do with my life? Reading their Bibles, having their own Bible studies. I mean, teenagers having their own Bible studies. That's happening all over the U.S. right now. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And they are very wise for their age because they have been through so many lies and seen the lies debunked.
Yeah.
And realized, oh, they're not telling me the truth on television.
No, they're not.
Oh, that politician, that was not true. Oh, they took 2 years away from us in school and made us all wear masks and told our parents if they didn't get vaccines that they would lose their jobs. And so my parents took the vaccine, and now one of them's got myocarditis and the other one can't breathe. Or my parents didn't take the vaccine and they both lost their jobs. Like, they watched the U.S. government brutalize their families and them. They watched it. They lived through it. And it imprinted on them in a major way. And so now they're coming out of that, and they're starting to get older, and they're going to be moving out of the house, this generation I'm talking about. And they want to know what the real truth is. They know they've been lied to for pretty much their whole lives, and they're sick of it. And they want to know what the truth is. And thank goodness they're realizing the only infallible truth is in the pages of the Bible. That's it. Not what the preacher says, not what I say or you say or the president says. What's in this book? That is my life plan. This is my blueprint. They really do feel that way about it. And that's a very encouraging thing to me.
I think a lot of people have a gut level sense that trouble's coming.
100%. It's going to have to. Trouble has to come.
Why?
Because if you look back over the history of the written word of God, let's call it what's the Lord's MO? What's his modus operandi? How has he done it in the past? That's really important to know, because he says, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. My word does not change. He does not change. We change, culture changes. He does not. So if you look at, for instance, this stat. So I started working with DHS with their cyber predator sting units.
Oof.
Okay? Because I saw a little presentation was done with my wife and my older son with like 30 boys, and a DHS agent came in, and he's telling these boys how these predators can get them on their phones, like how they can track them, how they talk to them, how they present themselves as I'm a 15-year-old girl. I'm a cheerleader. I go to school right down the road from you. And here's a picture of this pretty girl. Here, I'll send you a picture of me in a bikini. You send me a picture, blah, blah, blah. And they start this whole thing. And then once they've got them, then they say, yeah, I'm not a 14-year-old girl. I'm a 55-year-old man in Cleveland, Ohio. And here's your dad's name, your mom's name. Here's all your siblings' names. Here's your home address. Here's where you go to school. And if you don't do X, Y, Z, I'm going to show up there tomorrow and kill everybody in your family.
Or show them the pictures. Yeah.
Yes. And then the kid is in this position of, what do I do? What do I do? And then sometimes they'll go and they're told to meet this guy at a park or meet him at a store or at a gas station or whatever, and you never see him again. So my wife and son saw this 1-hour little seminar from this guy and came home, and my son pulls his phone out and starts changing the settings on his phone, deleting apps, certain apps that he had to be gone. That one's gone. No, that one's gone, because this guy's telling him, get this stuff off your phones. So I'm like, what in the world did this guy say? And so my wife starts telling me what all he said. And I said, my God, that needs to be heard by every parent in America. I said, what was the agent's name? And she actually had a business card on this guy. And so I emailed him and I said, hey, agent so-and-so, this is John Rich. You just had this seminar with my wife and son, and that message needs to be heard by every parent in America. How can we make that happen? And he goes, hey, John, nice to meet you. That's above my pay grade. I said, well, send me up to somebody that it ain't above their pay grade. So he goes, okay. So he sends me to their regional director, a guy named Dennis Fetting, Agent Fetting. And I told him, I said, you guys are doing a horrible job marketing this message. I'm glad that you go to the school. I'm glad that you'll go to the church. I'm glad that you'll go to the youth group. That is admirable and great. But you're throwing a snowball at a brick wall. I said, why don't you work with me and let's put you on live stream, live on X, and promote it for 2 or 3 weeks and do the exact same thing you just did there, but let's do it in front of millions of people.
Great idea.
That's what he said. He goes, well, we never thought of that. Well, of course not. They're not marketers. You know? I mean, that's what I do. So we shook hands, civilian and federal government shook hands, got all the way up to Secretary Nome, and she said, do it. Great, green light. So we did that sit down, and to date, it's somewhere around 9 million views has been seen now for parents. And I get it all the time, parents hitting me up going, we changed everything on our kids' phones after we saw that. We made their accounts private. We got rid of these apps. We got rid of blah, blah, blah. Because you would literally do anything as a parent to keep a bad guy, a predator, from coming into your house at night and stealing your kid out of their bedroom. Wouldn't you, Tucker?
Yes, I would.
You'd rip their throat out with your bare teeth if that's all you had.
Sleep for 8 hours.
They would die.
Yep.
They would die. They just would. But they're getting to your kids as you're sitting there watching the news or football, and your kid's back there on their iPhone on some app talking to somebody they think is one person, but it's somebody else, and they're getting them right there inside your house, and you don't even know it. You're derelict on your duty as the parent because you're just ignorant of the fact that this is what's going on. So that started me down a road of significance in that sector of educating parents and blowing the whistle on what the bad guys do. The DHS told me that last year there were 36 million reports that came into them on kids that had been targeted online. 36 million in 1 year. So averaging 3 million a month.
In the United States.
In the United States.
That's like every child.
3 million a month. And they said, we don't have, there's no way we can combat that. We go get as many of them as we can. But I mean, it's literally, that's how big the problem is. So back to your question, why does trouble have to come to this country? Because God is not going to put up with that. And he doesn't bring trouble on a country because the devil's people are being devilish. He brings trouble on a country because his people refuse to engage. 2 Chronicles says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways, I will come and heal their land. He didn't say if the devil's people.
Right.
He said if my people.
There's not a lot of emphasis on that. There's a lot of emphasis on what other people are doing wrong. Emphasis on the bad people, on the existence of evil. I've certainly spent a lot of time thinking and talking about that, but very little conversation about how we're part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Christians don't want to hear that. You think they'd come back to church next Sunday if you impugn the entire congregation, including yourself?
I do.
You think they'd come back?
Yeah, I mean that's
I would come back.
That's the biblical message, right? Isn't that what John the Baptist said as he wandered around the desert? Repent, and Jesus to repent.
Yes,
and it worked.
Maybe the churches will turn back to that, but if they don't, he is going to. If we won't humble ourselves, then he is going to humble us. He will do it for our own good.
How does that work?
Go ask Moses how it worked out for him when he got humbled. I mean, ask David how it worked out when he got humbled. King David went out there and, he killed Goliath. Man, that was awesome. He was doing good. And then he becomes king, and he sees this gorgeous woman taking a bath on her rooftop, and he goes, wow, who's that? They go, oh, that's Bathsheba. He goes, who's she married to? She's married to one of your main generals in the army, Uriah. He goes, she's married to Uriah. Yeah. He goes, tell you what, when we take the Philistines on here in the next couple of weeks, they had a battle coming up, put Uriah on the front line. So he'll die.
And then withdraw support from him so he's alone.
He got killed.
Yeah. And
then David took his wife. David took his wife after he had him basically murdered. And Bathsheba got pregnant. Then a prophet came to David and he said, God knows what you've done. He knows what you've done, and he sent me to tell you that child will not be born alive. He's taking your child from you. That's your punishment. And David just went into an absolute tailspin. I mean, it said, covered himself in sackcloth and ashes, ripped his beard out. I mean, he was just writhing around in the street as the king of Israel at that point, because he realized the immense nature of sin that he had committed.
His sin.
Yes. Yes. And God loved him. David is the only man in the Bible that God said is a man after my own heart. I mean, the greatest compliment you could get from God. Yes. But David still did that. And God brought him low. He humbled him in a major way. And so if we look at the history of God and what his MO has always been, when his people refuse to do what he's telling them to do, and they stand back and let the devil just run right over them over and over, and by doing so, allow tens of millions of kids to be harmed or worse because Christians, God's people refuse to engage the situation, you're damn right he's going to humble us. And I can't wait.
You can't wait for the country to be humbled.
Bring it. Because I don't want to live in a country that allows that kind of thing to happen. I don't want to live in a place like that. That is the most abhorrent thing you can possibly imagine.
But there's a lot of suffering on the way from here to humility.
100%. Pain. Pain is the greatest teacher. Pain is, I mean, he made the Israelites wander around out in the wilderness for 40 years. Moses didn't even get to go into the promised land because he sinned, and that was his punishment. You can go down the list. All of them did something. I mean, they're just humans, but he gives you, I've said this before, if God really loves you, he'll only slap your teeth out instead of your brains. If he really cares about you. And you're a dad, I'm a dad. If our kids when they're little, they're playing out in the road, throwing a baseball around or whatever. And you go out there and they're like, boys, you can't be playing in the street. Come on back in the yard. Okay, Dad. And the very next day, they're back out in the street throwing the baseball again. Are you going to have the same demeanor this time?
No.
No. You're going to intensify and you're going to go, boys, I told you, and you're going to grab one of them by the shirt and you're going to march them back into the yard. And then the next week, they're out in the street throwing the baseball around again. And cars are zipping by. Now what are you going to do? Now we're going to enter the phase of pain.
The spanking zone.
Something's going to happen that they're not going to want it to happen again. And why are you doing that? You're doing that so they don't get hit by a car and die. You're doing it to protect them from themselves because they're not listening and they're not doing what it is you're telling them to do. And it's not an ego trip that you're punishing them. It's for their own good. You can tell the kid his whole life, don't put your hand on that stove, son, or it will burn your hand. He will not believe you until one day he lays his hand on that stove and takes the skin off his hand.
That is correct.
And he'll never touch it again. Will he? He'll never, or like a go-kart, the exhaust on a go-kart sitting out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you tell your kids, don't touch that. That thing is blazing hot. You can fry an egg on that. My son, he was about 9, laid his hand down on that, and I had to go to the hospital and scrape all the skin off. It was horrible. He never did that again.
No.
Right. So that's what Christians, I believe, can expect in the future.
Have you been humbled?
Oh, good grief. Yes. Tremendously. Many times, because I'm a very stiff-necked, I would say it's a battle for me to sacrifice my self-confidence and arrogance and my alpha male attitude. That is my biggest thing, is I've got to kill it every single day. Every day I got to just tie that up in a knot and throw it over my shoulder.
How do you do that?
By realizing who's watching you, knowing he's looking at you going, You're going, sorry, I shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have had that thought, shouldn't have got that mad, shouldn't have done whatever. You go, I'm sorry, and then stop doing that. Yeah. He'll go, thank you. He's your dad. He treats us like kids because we are. The same way you would discipline your kids and care about your kids, and I do, is the same way he feels about us, except he's just perfect at it, whereas we're totally imperfect with it. But the same emotion and the same point of it is there. Whether it's Tucker Carlson talking to your kids or God's talking to Tucker Carlson, it's the same relationship. Isn't that an interesting thing to think about?
It is interesting. And one of the things I mean, aside from the fact the unhappiest people in the world I've ever met hate their dads. There's something about that dynamic that doesn't work at all for people. But I noticed that most people in positions of leadership, temporal leadership, will never admit fault ever. Mm-hmm. Ever. That's the one thing that sets them apart. Whether they're competent or incompetent, they all fail at some point, and leaders tend to deny it.
Yep. They fail to yield to him, number one, but they even fail to yield to their fellow citizens to say, I am sorry, that was a huge mistake. And why do they fail to do that? Because they feel like if I admit that I really made that horrible mistake, they won't reelect me, or I'll lose my job at the big company, or whatever it is. So that is more important to them than owning up to whatever they did that was wrong. It's more important to keep myself intact. Well, what is that? That's back to success and significance. They're only concerned about success, their success. That's it. And I'm telling you right now, man, he does not care about your personal success. He may give you a lot of success, but that's not the point. And I really think that he gives guys like me success and you success and other people success so that at some point, back to your original question, it seems like, John, you've changed gears here. Yes, I have changed gears here because the fuse is burning down on whatever this situation is going to wind up being. And I want to be on record that I said true things that are backed up by the word. I want to write music that backs it up. I want to do podcasts that people can watch and think about it and go pick it up and read it for themselves. That is significant to me. That is significant.
But it's also unpredictable. You don't know where that goes. Are you worried?
I have concern about it. I've had death threats in the past 2 weeks. That's not fun.
What's your attitude toward that?
Pray for protection. So we talked about earlier, when you pray for things, you have to be specific about what it is you're asking for. And then he has to give it to you if it serves his will. Well, I would hope protecting me serves his will. I hope he wants me around a long time. There's one verse in Zechariah in the Old Testament, and this prophet, he was being hunted basically, and like all of them were, and he asked God for protection. And God responded to him, the Lord responded to him and said, I will be a wall of fire around you. I personally will. Not I'm going to send down the angels. I, the Creator, will be a wall of fire around you, and they will not be able to get to you. Granted. Job is another example. Job had a hedge built around him and his family that God built around him because God loved him and protected him. And the devil went to God and said, take that hedge off from around Job, and I bet I can get him to curse you. Like, this is the devil up there, this Lucifer up there talking to God. God goes, no, he won't. He goes, well, you'll never know because I can't get to him because you built this hedge around him. I can't get to him. But if you take it down, he'll curse you. He will. He'll turn his back on you. And he goes, no, he won't. He goes, all right, fine. And so God took the hedge away from Job. And it says a storm blew through, killed his entire family, took all of his crops, all of his land, his animals, everything. And then Job got struck with a disease, and he went from being a wealthy, successful guy with a nice family and all that to sitting outside the walls of the city covered in sores, scraping himself with pieces of broken pottery, begging for people to give him food. And his family and friends are walking past him going, Job, just curse God and die. Just curse God and die, Job. This is horrible.
Then his friends show up and blame it all on him.
We can't stand seeing what's happening to you. God has abandoned you. Just curse him and die and get this over with. And Job's response is this: though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Though he slay me, yet will I still trust him. And when he made that statement, God replenished him with everything he had lost times 7. And put the hedge back around him and told the devil, said, I told you so. I told you he wouldn't curse me. Get the hell out of my face. Go read that story. Right?
Yes. So you're changing your orientation away from just amusing people in bars and stadiums to trying to use the authority that you've been given, that you've earned, to teach and to shine light on evil and to help the weak.
The defenseless.
The defenseless. I think I'm summarizing broadly what you just said. You've written a new song, which I think it's fair to say is not a top 40 hit. Is this fair?
It just came out, and it will not be on the radio.
Why won't it be on the radio?
If a radio station plays this song, I will go there personally and buy him a steak dinner.
You will? Okay.
It would take a lot for them to put this on the air. About a year ago, I saw a clip of Sean Combs, and he was standing on a stage at an award
That'd be
show.
Puff Daddy?
Yeah, that's right. I won't call him that, but whatever, that guy. And Sean Combs standing up there, and he's looking into the cameras, and he says, I own your kids. I own their souls. I determine what they wear. I determine what they listen to. He's looking right in the camera saying this, meaning he's looking at me. And I'm thinking, oh, is that right, Sean Combs? You own my sons? You own the souls of my sons. Really? And I thought, this guy has no fear whatsoever of a mom or a dad and what they would do to him if he came and tried to take one of their kids. No understanding whatsoever. And basically what you're seeing there is a demon-possessed man. And don't forget this, Tucker, the devil and his minions are the most arrogant creatures in the universe. They are so arrogant.
I've noticed.
With their wickedness. They don't care what you think about it. Blah. I mean, they're just going to say it, right to your face. And so I saw him say that, and I went, this guy, music for Sean Combs is like a weapon. He uses his music to indoctrinate, we talked about music earlier, how it can go in between all the defenses you have. It can get through your soul and your spirit and all the way down into you and get stuck in your head for the rest of your life. And he knows that too. He uses it for wicked purposes. So it's a weapon for him. It's something, that's his main go-to. And I was thinking about that, and I said, yeah, me too. Music is my weapon of choice. And is anybody going to rebut this devil and what he just said about our kids? Nobody did. Nobody said boo about it. Well, there's Sean Combs up there just declaring that he owns the souls of our children in America. I said, yeah, I don't think so. And I got really intense with that thought process. And I thought there needs to be a song that talks about what a mom or a dad would be willing to do to keep a Sean Combs style person, and there's millions of them in our country. As we discussed earlier, there's literally nothing they wouldn't do to protect their kids. And I really don't think that the people on the other side of the table, the predator class out there, don't really have an understanding of that. It's almost as if they have no fear of the American parent, of the dad, the regular guy, the guy that keeps to himself, works hard every day, just leave me alone guy. I think they don't really understand what that person would turn into if you put your hands on one of their kids, because they would rip you limb from limb. They would become the most primal beast you've ever met in your life. They would lose all inhibition. You lose, they win. All they would care about is that they live long enough to kill you. That would be the dad's only concern. Just let me live long enough to take him out. He hurt my kid. That's how a parent really feels, right?
Without question.
Okay. A lot of parents watching this podcast right now are going, yep. So I wrote this song called The Righteous Hunter, because predators hunt. They hunt. They hunt our kids. So they're the wicked hunters, right? Well, as everything is in nature, if you've got darkness, you've also got light. There's a flip side to everything. And I thought, who are the righteous hunters? How about we hunt them? How about we put them on the run? How about the predators out there who are so arrogant that they'll stand on television and tell us what they're going to do to our kids? How about we put a little fear of God into them for a minute? How about we remind them who it is that they're really dealing with? And so I wrote this song, The Righteous Hunter. It just came out. The video to this song, which I would urge people to go watch, is disturbing. It is a recreation, and we actually used adults who had been trafficked and who now go out and sting traffickers. One lady in particular named Brooke, who you'll see in the video, she made sure that we shot this accurately. So basically you see these two bad guys making a deal on buying some kids and where they're going to meet. And then you see them meeting there, and then you see the kids walk out that are for sale. And meanwhile, I'm singing in this little girl's bedroom, and she's not there because she's been taken. And her dad is played by Sean Ryan.
What a good man.
In the video. And you talk about a righteous hunter, that's him. Because I promise you, he's a hunter on many levels, but as a dad, that is the last human being you would want to see coming for you. The last human being. And so I asked Sean, I said, I know this is way outside, man, of what you normally do or have ever done, but would you play the dad in this video, The Righteous Hunter? And I sang The Righteous Hunter on his podcast about 2 months ago. And he looked at me and he said, that's going to be the biggest song you have ever put out. I'm going to make a prediction. That is going to be the biggest song you've ever put out. Tears in his eyes, the whole thing. So I brought my guitar up here because we're not going to show the video on the podcast, but you can get the song. You can go watch it. Just look up John Rich, The Righteous Hunter, and you'll find it. But I brought the old Martin there. That's actually my son's name, Colt, my younger son, and his birthday, September 29, 2011. And I memorialize my kids on my guitars. I love my kids more than life, more than anything. And there's literally nothing I would not do to protect one of my kids. Literally nothing. Literally. I don't care if 20 of them are coming. We'll pile them up out by the fence. If you come from my kids.
As a windbreak.
If you come from my kids, all bets are off. You lose. I win. We don't run. We do not run, and we're going to have to stop running in this country. We should not have the posture of, oh, I just hope they don't come get my kid. That's not the posture, man. The posture is, you come on and try it one time, big boy. Come on into my yard and try it one time and see how you wind up. You freak sitting behind your computer, acting like you're a kid, entrapping these kids, stealing these kids, pimping them, prostituting them, harvesting their organs, all the horrible demonic stuff you're doing to our kids. Why don't you step in my yard one time and try it and see what happens to you? You degenerate demoniac. Call them what they are. So that's what this song does.
Can I hear it?
Absolutely. I know I always bring songs to you that you go, I can't believe you could write a song about that.
No, I love it.
Evil runs around this town undercover, looking for a soul to take. But they better stay away from the righteous hunter, or hell is all they'll pay. 'Cause I can see you around the corner, and I know you're coming. If you had any sense, you'd run. But you ain't got a clue what a daddy will do. Better give your soul to Jesus while I get my gun. You better give your soul to Jesus while I get my gun. They try to steal away our sons and daughters, shrouded in the shadow of night. But we fight with protection of the Heavenly Father, and we ain't scared to die. And I can see you around the corner, and I know you're coming. If you had any sense, you'd run. But you ain't got a clue what a daddy will do. Better give your soul to Jesus while I get my gun. Yeah, you better give your soul to Jesus while I get my gun. Recall the words that Jesus said, better off with millstones around their necks, and we pray. Not our will, but thine be done, bringing in to the reign of the wicked one. This we claim in your name. And I can see you around the corner, and I know you're coming. If you had any sense, you'd run. But you ain't got a clue what a daddy will do. Better give your soul to Jesus while I get my gun. Yeah, you better give your soul to Jesus while I get my gun. Evil runs around this town undercover, looking for a soul to take. But they better stay away from the righteous hunter, or hell is all they'll pay.
Amazing. I love it.
Thanks for letting me play it.
You saying there, I'm not afraid to die. Are you not afraid to die?
Not for my kids.
Yeah,
It'd be an honor to die for my kids.
I agree with that. Why are you the first person to articulate this in the way that you did?
Because it is the most grotesque, uncomfortable, wicked thing that exists in my mind. And it is so bad that really good people with really good intentions, strong people, just want to go like that.
Yep, that's where I am. That's exactly where I am.
I cannot look at that. I cannot bring myself to come to grips with what is going on.
It's too evil. I can't deal with it.
It's so evil. It is so against the DNA of a unpossessed person that they can't even fathom it. And
that's very wise.
You don't want it in your mind.
That's right. In fact, I've always wondered, I'm so grateful that there are people entrapping child molesters on the internet. I'm grateful for that. But I always wonder, what does it do to them to marinate it? It's like watching ISIS videos all day. I don't want to see that.
They have PTS like you cannot imagine.
Is that true?
Oh, Lord have mercy. I mean, the jobs these people do, the stuff they have to see is, it never leaves them. And they have all kinds of problems that they have to deal with. And a lot of them can only do those jobs for a period of time, and they got to get out. They just cannot deal with it. And that goes to the point of how unbelievably horrible it really is. And the fact that 36 million reports got called in last year to DHS about kids being targeted, 36 million unique reports. That's how big it is in our country. America is the #1 consumer of child exploitation. #1 is America. You know, the country that's founded on God? That country, the country that says founded by our Creator.
It's just a little weird because if you go online, even in your private conversations, which are not private at all, they're all monitored, as I know you know, that's a fact, and start talking about overthrowing the government or killing your leaders or whatever, boy, they come to your house. Mm-hmm. That happens a lot. So how are people consuming child exploitation pornography? Like, how are they engaging in this digitally and the government just kind of isn't picking up on it or something? Like, what is that?
It could be, that could be part of it, but the sheer volume, Tucker, right. How do you deal with 36 million reports? How do you do that?
I don't know.
So the only way I have thought of how to start knocking these numbers back, which, by the way, less than 1% of kids that are trafficked and taken are ever returned to their parents. Less than 1%. The only way I have determined, and at the end of the video, and I really hope people go look this video up, The Righteous Hunter. At the end of the video, my friend Tim Tebow saw the video. Tim's organization, they hire former police, detectives, former military, intelligence people, and they go out and they find these guys and they rescue kids. That's what they do. We need, I asked the lady that was at the video shoot, she's overseen 14,000 kids rescued in 21 years.
Wow.
And she was trafficked as a kid. So she dedicated her whole life to it. And I asked Brooke, I said, so how many people would we need in America working full time, doing the job that you do or that Tim Tebow does and others to get this number from 1% are returned to 50% are returned? Right. She said, probably 20,000, somewhere in that range. And I said, what would that cost? She said, about $1 billion a year.
Yeah.
And I said,
less than we give to Harvard.
That's all? What would happen if you had $2 billion? She goes, they would be running, they would burn their computers, they would get off the dark web, they would be hiding under the rocks and in the caves. They would be hiding because there would be an army of people tracking them, hunting them. The predator becomes hunted. She said it would take that. So I wonder why I can't go to Congress and lay these facts and figures out while we have this current administration and say, I want $2 billion peeled off of some bullshit project you guys are working on, and I want 20,000, 40,000 soldiers on the ground, American citizens with expertise to go drain this situation and incarcerate as many of them as you can and save the American child. That is what I want to see happen.
Take it out of the foreign aid budget. I'm for that.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Now, if we pull something like that off, God may decide to hold off on turning the table upside down on this country. He might, if you do that.
I mean, we don't treat children well at all.
No.
At all.
We don't let a lot of them even be born to begin with.
No, 63 million since 1973.
That's right. And
I often think if you were buying a new house and the realtor said it was a great house and you wanted the house, a beautiful house, and you got to the master bedroom and the realtor says to you, by the way, you should just know that a child was dismembered in this bedroom. Would you buy the house? Maybe, probably not. Because there's something spooky about that. There's something, I'm not a theologian, I don't know much about theology, but there's something so dark about that act taking place in a place.
Yep.
You don't want anything to do with it. We used to call them haunted houses.
Yes.
So if you have 63 million dismemberments of children in your country, it changes the nature of the country. It's leaving aside, the effects on the women. Obviously, the children were killed, the effects on the abortionists who did it. It's bad for everybody, but it's also bad for your nation itself. Like, that's happened inside our borders.
Yes. How long do you think God's going to let us get away with that?
I don't know, but
I'm surprised he has for this long. He brought low many other empires for way less.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
that's why I say
I refuse to believe that doesn't have consequences. That has consequences.
I hope for it.
If the soul is real, and I think that it is, I think most people understand that it is because they feel that it is, you can't eliminate 63,000 people, can't kill them for whatever reason. Everyone always has a good reason to kill somebody. They always justify it to themselves. But the fact is that many number of children were killed, and that has got to have a consequence. How could it not?
Right. So this little song I just played you it's out there, and the point of it is to grab parents by the shoulders and shake them hard enough.
Yes.
Because these images in this video, my man, will rattle you when you see them. It was hard to shoot, uncomfortable to shoot, but we shot it accurately. We had real people that really do this for a living.
Wow.
And made it look like what it looks like. I mean, the people in the room were bawling their eyes out, and these are some tough people because the situation looked like what they go into a lot of the times. And you see those kids come walking in that room for sale.
Yeah.
You will become extremely sad and violently angry all at the same time. You will go, if I could find those people right now, I'd go get them. That's how it'll make you feel. But they're everywhere. They're in every zip code in the U.S. There are people that you might shake hands with every day. There are people that work in your schools. There are people that work in government. There are people that coach teams. There are all kinds of people you would never expect that are involved in this stuff. That's why it's so big. It's like a $220 billion a year industry, and America's the number one customer.
It's horrifying.
So not to drag us all the way down.
No. I mean, I think it's, if, you have to care about that.
You got to writing a song like that and putting it out is, I believe, a significant thing to do. That's not something you do for success. That's something you do for significance, back to the beginning of our conversation. Yes. Because once I put it out there, it's out there forever. Music is permanent and it sticks. They don't forget about it. And I'm hoping that it yields results on many levels. I hope that it wakes parents up. I hope that parents go on and look at that video we did with DHS, and they go to their kids' phones and go, we're changing all that. They can't even get to you now. That needs to happen. And then I hope extreme funding starts rolling in, that this song will start a dialogue that big. That's why I made it so jarring. And that's why I made that lyric the way it is. The lyric is accurate. Give your soul to Jesus while I get my gun, because I know you're coming for my kid and you're not going to survive this, but I still hope you don't go to hell. Like, that's what the good guy says. Give your soul to Jesus on your way over, because this is the last stop for you. You know what I mean?
I do.
And I think that's how most Americans, especially Christian Americans, they don't want to ever have to be in a position like that.
No.
But it's in them. It's just God made us that way.
You threaten your children. Yeah, that's a different thing.
God built us
So
that
I
way.
think this will reverberate. And the reason I think that is because, I mean, you're the only singer I've ever interviewed twice about something other than singing, is because the last interview that we did really had a lasting effect on me. When we did the interview, it was about your song, Revelation.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great, but I didn't understand. I still don't fully understand a lot of the theology around it. It's not the world that I come from, to put it mildly. But you made a point about something called dispensationalism. Yeah, the theology of dispensation, and you criticized it. You said you don't think it's biblical, and I wasn't exactly sure what you were talking about when we had the conversation, but it set off a chain reaction in me. I learned much more about it, and it really did change my views. But in that conversation, you said there are a lot of preachers who will hate this. And I've never met any preacher, who even knows what that is. So it's like, it's, again, not my world.
Right.
My question is, what was the effect, the aftermath of that interview?
A lot of preachers hated what I had to say.
They did they?
Yeah.
Did you hear about it?
Oh, I went on YouTube and I couldn't watch them all. There were so many of them. I mean, some of them were 10 minutes long. Some of them were 2 hours long. Some of them were
responding to your views?
Oh, yeah. Some of them were sermons where they would bring it up. I know you've probably seen this song, Revelation, and I just want to go into that. Anybody that says that, what John Rich is saying is a heretic.
Actually?
That's a bad word. That's a really bad word, a heretic. Yeah. And it's false teaching and it's false doctrine and it's but he's a false. Also a terrible word. I'm anything but false. I have my faults. False is not one of them.
I've noticed, yeah.
And so I went, well, we hit the mark with that, because their congregations are now going, I'm going to go read Matthew 24. John said, go read it. I don't really know what it says, so I'm going to go read it.
Right.
And I'm telling you, man, I have had thousands of people online on social media hit me up and say, I just read Matthew 24 twice, like you said, and it absolutely says that. That is just what it says. I can't believe I ever thought it was different than that. Like the whole point of it, for people that don't know what that is, dispensationalism is basically saying that before the tribulation hits, before things get really, really bad for Christians on the earth, that they will be raptured out of here. They'll be pulled out before the really bad stuff happens. And it doesn't say that. It actually, Jesus lists off all these things that are going to happen prior to his return. And the wrath that Christians will be living under during the tribulation is the devil's wrath. We're not spared from the devil's wrath. We're spared from God's wrath. And God's wrath is final. That's when whoever's left at that point gets pulled out, and then God pours his wrath out and the whole thing gets wiped out. And then he rebuilds it, and that's a whole other story. But American Christians and American preachers don't want to have to think about the fact that they're going to have to go through something difficult. Well, I'm sorry. Why don't you take a little trip around the globe and go meet with some Christians who are literally meeting in caves and in basements of houses, and if they're caught, they're murdered or imprisoned for the rest of their life, or chopped up into pieces like what's going on in Syria right now, where they just hack them up. Or go down to Africa, where there's Christians in mainly Muslim-dominated countries, and they're actually practicing Christians. You know what happens to them? They steal all their kids, they hack up all the men and women, and they move on, and that village is just gone. And you're telling me that fat, lazy American Christians have more of a right to be spared pain than those people? Those people are worshiping Jesus Christ knowing it could absolutely cost them their life, and they're doing it anyway. They are elite to us. They are giants of Christians in these other places.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yes, they are elite. They are God's elite Christians. We are not. We're in America. We have a constitution that protects us from things like that happening to us, right? You can't do that to Christians in the United States. Now, they can come after you and call you bad names, blah, blah. That's not real persecution. And so I take real issue with Christians that say, God would never make us go through that. I'm like, what Bible are you reading? The 12 disciples were pretty tight with Jesus. Were they spared? No. I would say the 12 disciples were probably tighter with Jesus than any 12 men that ever lived, more than likely, right? He was tight with some other ones too, Paul and Daniel and, King David and all that. But the 12 disciples all wound up either being hung, beheaded, imprisoned for the rest of their lives, whatever. Impaled. Really bad things, crucified.
Yeah.
I mean, they crucified the Son of God. I mean, if anybody was going to be spared from pain, don't you think it would be the actual Son of God? Don't you think he would have been spared?
You'd think he'd get a pass on that.
Do American Christians outrank Jesus Christ? What an arrogant attitude that is.
There's also a kind of fragile response to all that. So you make these points and then they call you a heretic for saying that?
That's fine. Call me that. The Pharisees and Sadducees called Jesus all kinds of names. They can't stand it when you call them out. It really hits them the wrong way, which is great. It should hit them the wrong way because they are wrong and they know that they are. And they bought into centuries of that spin on that particular subject. And it's just, most Christians don't think that there's anything wrong with it because they've always been taught that. They don't know that that's not right. So it's just ignorance on their part. They just don't know. But the real simple trick is, my man, pick up the Bible and read what it says. Just read it. Just read it down and then read it slower and then read it a third time and sit there and think about it. It goes, it says all these things are going to happen before he shows back up. And if I'm alive when those things are happening, I'm going to live through that. And the real problem is telling people that they're going to be raptured out of here before, for instance, the Antichrist shows up or before the mark of the beast is implemented. They think they'll be gone before those things happen. Well, that's not true. They won't be gone before it happens. So what danger does that put them in? That means if they're alive on the earth when the mark of the beast is implemented and when the Antichrist shows up and makes himself known and they're still here, they're not going to think that's the Antichrist and they're not going to think that's the mark of the beast. And I believe that's part of the great deception that is talked about in the New Testament. He says, be as wise as serpents. Jesus said that, like, the deception is going to be so convincing that even some of the elect, meaning the elite Christians, the ones that really know, even it could be possible to even deceive them. That's how close the counterfeit move will be made. It is going to be something else. And if you have been believing wrong information and believing a spin narrative that's put on the end times, you were in harm's way at that point.
Yeah, that's interesting. Why do you think, what was the purpose of this deception? Like this what you call false theology?
Well, what it did is they figured out that if they would preach in a way that didn't make people uncomfortable, and it actually was twofold. Make them not feel uncomfortable about it. They would come back to church the following week.
Yeah.
And the church would get bigger.
Marketing scheme.
Yeah. And the other side of it, which actually I think had a positive effect, was they would say, the rapture could happen before this church service is over. So you better give your life to Jesus right now, because this time tomorrow, it could happen. Well, that created a sense of immediacy for people like, well, I don't want to get left behind. I don't want to get left behind. And they would go down and they would get saved. They'd give their life to Jesus. That's great. Right? So that was a positive result of it. But that you're talking about hundreds of years now. We're in 2025. We've got AI about to show up. You know, you wonder how my dad, who's been preaching since he was 19 years old, said we never could understand how in the book of Revelation, how they could monitor every human being on the earth, because that's what they would have to do to implement the mark of the beast. You can't buy or sell unless you have the mark.
Right.
when he goes, we just couldn't understand how that even be, how would you implement that? And then he goes, well, of course, now, I mean, everybody's monitored all the time, and that's not even a question. So all the technology and the technology that is yet to come and that yet to be deployed anyway, it's already here, but yet to be deployed, that's all going to be used in the tribulation. That will be used.
So it sounds like from your perspective, we're getting pretty close.
Everything that needs to exist for it to happen exists now. But it's up to God. He could hold it off for 1,000 years, but it sure don't look like it.
There are American Christians, including in Texas where you're from, working very hard, raising a lot of money to build a third temple in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. What do you think of that?
When it's very important in the Bible to go back and look up the original language of what was said, because it may say something a little different than what the English version of it says. I think that human beings that try to instigate on their own accord, instigate bringing on what Revelation talks about and what Daniel talked about, they go out purposefully to instigate it. Really hits me in a wrong way.
Because they're not God. They don't get to decide.
They're not God. They don't get to decide what happens. They just don't. We don't. That's up to him, how he wants to see that roll out. And so I find it strange that human beings think that they can usurp God's planning and his authority and his timeline. That's how it appears to me anyway.
So when people say we're going to bring about the end of history, the end of time by doing this,
we're going to force Jesus to come back when we want him to come back.
You're not on board with that.
No, I'm not. No, you don't force Jesus Christ to do anything.
If you had to guess, my last question, if you had to guess where your life goes in the next 5 or 10 years, what would your guess be? Because I've rarely met a more intense, self-driven person.
I would hope that I continue to do what I am told, no matter how difficult it is. If he wants me to do it and shows me I want you to go do that, that I will have the fortitude, which he also has to give you. You have to ask for that too. You don't have your own fortitude. You don't have anything, Tucker. You have literally nothing. You have nothing. You have to ask him for all of it. That he would grant me the fortitude to follow through on what it is he wants me to do. And my real, just what I feel like my role is right now is to have conversations like this in front of millions of people, because they're not going to hear it generally in their church. They're not going to hear it anywhere. They're just not going to hear it. And I have no agenda with this. You know what I mean? I don't have a church. I'm not a preacher. I'm not running for politics. I'm not doing any of those things. I'm a guy with no record deal, no publishing deal. I'm a dad. I have a guitar. I know how to write songs. I can perform them. I can take things that need to be said and put it into the form of music and put it out there and hopefully have serious impact in two directions. One, for the good people, the righteous people out there, to make them think, to flick light bulbs on in their head, go, wait, what did he just say? What did that song do? And open them up to receive the real truth of what's going on. And second fold on that is to put the most fear, humanly and spiritually possible, into the hearts of the devil's people, of his army. I want them to be able to not sleep at night. I want them to run and cower in fear, because they know who they're up against. And we have to announce ourselves. We have to tell them who we are, and we have to call them what they are. They're not somebody with a mental problem. They are a servant of their father. They are carrying out their father's business, and that's what they are. And guess what? They all have a chance to repent. As long as they got one breath left, they can repent and they can turn, and I pray that they do. But if they're not going to, and they're going to stay on the route that they're on, and they're going to come for our kids, then they're going to have to deal with us. It's just, who is us? Us have to make ourselves clear. The song is meant to clarify to them, to the Sean Combses of the world, who you're talking to. Because I don't think you really understand it fully. And I like that thought.
John Rich, thank you.
Thanks for having me, man. Always a good time.
Christmas is back, and so is our merchandise shop at TCN. Visit tuckercarlson.com to see what we have to offer, and it's awesome. Everyone has a long list of people they need to shop for this Christmas. Our new line can help you brighten the day with gifts they will actually love, not the kind they're going to throw away or thank you for but not mean it. Actually good stuff that's great for everybody. Ornaments, wrapping paper, Christmas sweaters. For real. The TCN shop has everything you need, dozens of new styles and designs perfect for the gift giving and spreading the Christmas spirit. That's tuckercarlson.com. We hope you have the very best Christmas.